Hey guys, Palsteron here with a day 3, kind of day 2, day 3 update of what I've been doing on my Hexblast Mine Saboteur. So I'll quickly go over some of the easy crafts that you can do on this build to improve some of your stuff. Right now I'm level 94, basically unlock the Atlas. However, favorite slots, I haven't really done much here. I've just been kind of having fun mapping. So yeah, the 2 Watchstones obviously, but the rest we're going to unlock today. I will talk about the endgame version that I will transition into pretty soon. So first, I'm crafting advice. How did I make some of my gear? The helmet was pretty easily made. Basically, I bought a spell suppression fracture. If that's too expensive, you can do stuff like chaos res. When it comes to fractures, you usually want to go for something that is hard to roll for and that you really want. Spell suppression, really annoying to roll for. Chaos res, same thing, and both are kind of mandatory for a lot of builds. So what I did is I bought this base right here. Now, if you can buy a base with like Hexblast damage enchant or Grace Reservation enchant, even better. At this point, I did not have the currency for that, and all I did afterwards is just spam Screaming Essences of Greed, which guarantee you a life roll. There's no real reason to break your bank for any of the higher ones, and I hit this one, which has res, a little bit of regen, and nothing really else. Now, the physical damage from hits taken as fire damage is incredibly valuable. That's also something you would like to get in the implicits, but once again, I did not have the currency at that point to do that. The shield stayed the same. That's the one I made with Rog. The amulet stayed the same. This ring stayed the same. Everything kind of stayed the same. However, I did buy new gloves. Now, if you want to increase your damage, you can get something like this here. Increase damage with hits against chilled enemies. This is a hybrid roll with cold res, which you obviously both want. And this one is from an Alva Temple. What I did is I bought this one from trade. It had chaos res, it had an open suffix. I slammed attack speed, which is kind of useless. And then I just have a life roll on top, right? With the implicit, I just spammed some Searing Exarch thingies. These are pretty cheap right now, and I'm farming them myself until I got Mind Throwing Speed, which is quite useful. And yeah, that's basically my gloves. Otherwise, you can do the same thing as you do with the helmet. Get 1 fracture and then spam Greed Essences again. You note though that the damage against chilled enemies only works if you have Profane Proxy. So you have Skitterbots, right? And you have it in your right ring slot, so it overrides the shock, not the chill. Because otherwise you actually don't chill with Hexblast, you only freeze, which is kind of awkward and weird, but just something to mention. Then the belt is also self-crafted. In this case, once again, I bought a fracture, in this case chaos res, and now what I want is the trap and mind throwing speed, because that one is game changer, right? 16% is a lot. What I bought is Shrieking Essences of Zeal. You can see these one give 14 to 17 trap and mind throwing speed. Now the deafening gives higher, but honestly, just use the Shrieking one so you have more tries and more rolls, because it's not just about that mod, right? You also want to get life. In this case, I got like tier 3 life, which is obviously not the best. I got energy shield, which is kind of useless, right? Flash charges gained though is kind of nice, but I would have actually preferred res, because then I can jumble some other items around. Then at the end, you can craft, for example, mana to alleviate some of the reservation of your mines. As for boots, I straight up just bought these. Boot crafting is really annoying simply because getting 30 movement speed or 25 movement speed, almost impossible, right? The dexterity is a semi-break. It's not bad or anything. The mana is nice. This one, I think I bought for like 50 chaos. Now, do notice the enchant here. These boots already came with the enchant. If you do not have that, you can literally farm it yourself if you want to, right? You can do Uber Lap or you can do Normal Lap. I think Normal Lap has 90% crit chance if you haven't crit recently. And Uber Lap has the 120, right? So if you have some offerings, you can try and go for that. I just want to note how important that is, right? Other than that, I haven't really changed much. As you can see, my setup is still completely scuffed. I did make Curse Effect Reduction Quartz Flask, I guess. Got a little bit of movement speed here on the suffix, and this one I had since day 1. Another thing I got asked is, how did I make this cluster jewel? Last time I told you that you want a large cluster jewel with chaos damage between level 50 and level 67, right? 50 is good, 67 is good, 68 not good, 49 not good, right? So the only thing you have to do for this is spam Aberrant Fossils. I think it took us like 15 of them to get our 3 notables. In between, you're going to see a lot of 2 notables, but the problem with 2 notables is that if you have 2 notables, one of them is going to be back there, and we want to at some point respec this, and then we only want to have the 2 notables in front, right? So if you can get free notables, that's really nice. They also sell quite well. Here I would say definitely craft these yourselves. This is the only thing where I would say definitely do not buy them. People are making a lot of money with other people not knowing how to craft them. And once again, the reason you want this not at a higher item level is because then certain notables cannot appear, making it easier to craft. All right, next up, yesterday I went through some POBs of some people who needed help, right, on stream and on the Discord. And what we found was there's a lot of reasons why people's damage falls off. Now, I said in my build guide, the thing I love about this build is that I don't need a 6-link and I'm still going to pop off in red maps, and that is still true. However, that doesn't mean that you can't make other mistakes. I feel like a lot of people were really hyped how this build performed initially and then just forgot to upgrade their damage because they're like, you know what? I'm doing fine damage. And at some point that just doesn't work anymore because your enemies get harder and harder and harder and you just don't improve your gear. So we're going to talk about everything that could be wrong here. First up, you might be increased damage starved. I think every build I looked at was increased damage starved. So this is it, right? Wand, you want a lot of increased damage. Here I have over 90, right? I have 50% on my shield. Then the rest comes mostly from the passive tree, right? That is why a large cluster jewel is so strong. If you don't have 3 notables, you can go 2 notables for now, right? That is why I said I'm not going to spec out of this too early, because this gives a lot of increased damage, right? Whereas this path doesn't. A lot of people were looking at my mid-game POB and they were seeing that I'm pathing out right here. Ooh, I can save 1-2 points, but they don't realize they're not in mid-game yet. Second thing is no multi, no crit chance. So as you can see right here, crit chance, crit chance. Crit chance from boots, really big as well. If you think about a lot of these stats, right? Like this takes a suffix on an item. This takes a suffix on an item. This here is an enchant. So either you have none or you have one, right? So if you farm this, it's kind of free damage. And these kind of things are big, just as Eldritch implicits are free, right? You don't have any implicits. Now you have implicits. I get mind throwing speed. The other one I'm going to roll eventually, right? I get a little bit of crit chance for spells here. Just throw it on and see whatever sticks, right? I get a little bit of movement speed here. These 3 stats are incredibly important. The next thing is also crit multi. A lot of people didn't have crit multi on their amulet. They didn't have any crit multi on jewels. Now next up, no quality on gems. Minefield, right? Right now I'm using Divergent Minefield because I'm going into bossing. What this lets me do is I can place another 4 mines. So instead of 23, 27, which is nice against bossing, but doesn't do anything for mapping, right? But the normal minefield gives you 10% mine throwing speed. That is a huge, huge difference, right? We corrupted this one after like leveling twice, stuff like that. Cool. You don't need the quality on Hexblast. It's not important at all. Get a 21 as soon as you can. 10% AoE, you're not even going to feel. Charged mines, right? I'm going to get quality on this one next. 10% increased mine damage. High impact mine. I'm basically there. 19. All right, now we have 20 finally. Another 10% mine throwing speed. For all the people who say their build doesn't, like the mine throwing speed just doesn't feel good on minefield, that's 20% you can get right there between 2 qualities. Increased crit, once again, nice to have, but not super important. But focus on these 2 right here, especially the ones that give you mine throwing speed. What else? Oh, your wand sucks. God. So a lot of people were running with Dread Arc for a long time. Then they got a flammability or a frostbite ring on hit, and now you can replace it, right? But they didn't have any budget for the wand, and they just slapped on whatever, right? So my wand is not great. The reason I still keep it is because I need the mana for my mana reservation right now, because the rest is kind of scuffed. But please, invest into your wand. It can like give you 30-ish% more damage, or 40 or 50 if you have a good wand versus a bad one. A lot of spell damage, any crit mod, right? Crit multi would be nice as well here. Always have a suffix open so you can craft on the mind throwing speed. That's the most important part. If you can get plus to chaos or plus to spells, huge. Do not neglect your gear just because it was so easy early. I understand. I also did that, right? I kind of just breezed for the maps. I didn't think about any upgrades. I didn't invest any time. I didn't even heist. I usually heist for a little bit of chaos. Then you get into rad maps and it's like, the damage kind of fell off. What's happening? What's next for me now in terms of upgrades? I will obviously get a 6-link, but holy moly, 11 divines. So here's the thing. Is it worth 11 divines on this build? Maybe at some point. But if you remember the endgame guide that I made here, right? I'm talking about the Rathpith Globe version, right? So in order to start this version, you need a Rathpith Globe, which as of this recording is like 2 to 3 divines, which I bought. And a Dissolution of the Flesh, which is 2 divines, which I bought. So for 4.5 divines, and then a little bit of gear adjustment, I can go into my endgame version. Whereas Sandstorm is also good on this version, don't get me wrong. But you don't need it, right? Why would I not just do this first? And the answer is there's no reason. I'm just, like, If people think they're gonna like price fix Sandstorms, or I don't know, like just buy Sandstorms, that is all I need to do, right? Like, this silliness has come to a point where my endgame version is now the thing I upgrade before I get this goddamn helmet, right? So, okay, I will do that, right? Right now, I put like 5-ish divines into all of this. I'll probably use a blunderbore. I'm not 100% sure. I will quickly explain how this works. I will also leave an outline POV down below if you're interested. But the thing that sparked my interest the most are these tattoos right here. So, Honor Tattoo of the Oak, 2% increased maximum life per tattoo. On this build, I can get a total of, with the new tree, 26 tattoos in total, which would mean that I get 52% increased life. Now, if you didn't watch my endgame guide, the way this build works is Rathpith Globe gives you a lot of extra damage, right? Spell damage and crit chance, the more life you have. But it also costs you life, right? Which is quite hard. Like 10% per mind throw, that's impossible to sustain. However, if you do Dissolution of the Flesh, what happens is, now, instead of taking life damage, you reserve life instead. The cool thing about that is you can go to like 1 HP and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. The only thing that matters is the reservation. If that goes to 0, now you die. So you basically completely negate Rathpith Globe's downside. So that's what you do, right? You get a ton of damage from that. Then you stack life, which also gives you defense. So you're kind of like double dipping there, which is cool. Now, the thing that makes this viable, I think, are the tattoos as well. What I will do is the Elegant Hubris right here. Let's just show you real quickly. If I put this into a jewel slot, what you will see is Supreme Ostentation. Ignore attribute requirements, gain no inherent bonuses from attributes. So now your attributes don't do anything anymore, but you don't have any attribute requirements anymore, right? So beyond just being able to level shield charge to full, what you can do with this is you can tattoo everything, right? All your int, all your dexterity, everything. And you can also use stuff like Blunderbore here, which usually is unplayable on this build because it needs so much strength. Now, which body armor I'm going to go for, I'm not really sure because Blunderbore is almost impossible to color, right? So I was thinking about maybe I'm just going to go for a rare with like life or something. Maybe I probably will just keep Cloak of Flame for now. This would be something in endgame, but painted chromatic orbs right now are just way too expensive. So yeah, what I will do is I will probably like kind of shoehorn this together, and at the end, I'll do quite a bit more damage and have a little bit more defense. Now, one thing that you need if you want to run this setup, though, is Bleed, Ignite, and Poison Immune. In order to do that, you will probably need 1 Ghastly Eye Jewel or 2, right? Depending on how you can get them with, like, avoid being poisoned, avoid being bled, some life, right? And then what you can do is you can take this cluster right here with Tolerance, right? Huge. Chaos Res as well is very huge on this build, and you get like 40% extra chance to void. You can theoretically also take these 2 points if you want to for full immunity. Most likely, I will just try to get it on Jewels once again. Now, we will probably spec out of this whole thing here, but just to mention, there is also an Evasion Mastery that gives you 30% chance to void and 30% chance to poison. And then Ignite Immune, we have already from Pyromaniac, which is huge. Now, you might be asking, why is it so important to be immune to those ailments? Well, because of Dissolution of the Flesh, right? If you want to recover your life now, you have to not take damage for 2 seconds. So Evasion is nice, but as well as that, you can't just take dots, right? If you take dots, that's a bad thing because you're not recovering in that period, right? So you don't want to just stand on Burning Ground or anything. You want to be Burning Ground immune with Soul of Aberrath, right? And one thing as well that I will take that helps a lot is Lethe Shade, because Lethe Shade, once you're immune to all those ailments, the damaging ailments, right, are Ignite, Bleed, and Poison, you're immune. Now you can use Lethe Shade, and now all the other dots, you will take like 50% less damage when they start, which is insane, right? Especially against stuff like ground effects and whatnot. Just an absolute massive defensive boon. Yeah, but just for everybody, right? Like I said in my video, I'm not going to go into the endgame version because I'm already going to be rerolling. I'm just going to buy like a Sandstorm and then call it a day and do everything, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm not going to pay 11 divs. I could have, like, with everything that I farmed up yesterday, if I sell everything and I didn't buy what I just bought, I could have probably afforded one. But how stupid am I to buy this for 11 divs when I can literally go into my endgame version? So that's all I did, right? I saved some money and I'm now in the endgame version, and I'm going to probably respec this today on stream over on twitch.tv/Palsteron. So yeah, I said that I didn't want to go live version at the end, but what am I supposed to do? So yeah, if you're looking to upgrade this character, either Sandstorm Visage prices will go down and you follow the normal guide, right? You improve your character as I said in that guide, or you look at the endgame video, which is going to be linked down below, and you do what I do right here. Also, full disclosure, since this is quite a bit of a different build, I'll probably make a full build guide as well in a few days about it. Most likely that is worth it. Also, since I now have a lot of followers, I always have to point this out. I bought these two for 1, 2, 3 chaos each. If they go up, I can't do anything about it. If Rathpith goes up, if Dissolution goes up, I can't do anything about it. So always keep that in mind and always take a look out for that. But in general, yeah, Sandstorm Visage is expensive. Is that a big thing? No, I'll just play my endgame version. And I kind of wanted to present it right here. There's obviously a lot more going into it. Look at the POB in the description, and I will make an update in probably like 2 days or something when all the bosses are killed. And yeah, then at some point the full build guide. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys had a good league start. Hope you guys are blasting right now, hex blasting. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.